So today I'm going to talk about cultural um, differences uh, in the United States. I've been here about 25, actually 30 years, so since I was a teenager. But I was fortunate to grow up in the Caribbean where I grew up with extended family, all living very close knit, very close to each other. So I grew up with my aunts, they were young, my uncles, my cousins, some, not all my cousins, some of my cousins, because my aunts and uncles were still young, they were teenagers and young adults. And I grew up with my grandmother and my grandfather. And while my mother lived further away, about 20 minutes away, with my father, they were building a house together. And even after they finished building a house and I moved to live with them, I was still closely involved with all my aunts, uncles. They would come visit us. We would be there on every weekend. So I was constantly around the older generation and learned a lot of things um, before coming to the United States. Um, Once I moved to the United States, I grew up more in modern, westernized women mindset. Only because a lot of the women that were around were all single. They were single mothers and things like that. My mother was remarried at the time, so I still had father figure, not just from my stepfather, but from his father, um, and his mother. We all lived together in the same house, so I had that older generation of people there showing by example as well as teaching me how to live as a man and how women should live. And that was eventually drowned out by modern society, the modern women mindset, because a lot of things, school and a lot of my education and stuff, yeah, a lot of women were like leadership roles in that. Shout out to one of my math teacher, Miss Gibson. I hope hopefully she's still around, but great woman, excellent mathematician. Um, Mr. Martin, he was my excellent English teacher. Really nurtured my desire to be for writing, and to have my creative uh, inspiration from him. That's in high school, so but as my generation grew up, a lot of our kids, like my friends' kids, they didn't grow up with role models from the older generation, and so a lot of their kids now who are in like 20s and stuff, even have a very diluted sense of what it is to be a man, what it means to be a woman, because their parents, my generation, didn't really live that way for the most part. Because when I was growing up, a lot of my friends had single mothers. Fathers were never really around. A lot of times they didn't know who their father was. Um, and that lent itself to a lot of problems that we have in relationships today. Why marriages are ending so much? It's significantly high. It's like 80, especially in the black community, about 80% in the 50s and 60s were married. Nowadays, it's 1 in 4 black women would ever get married in their entire lifetime. So, because of that tight knit family relationship that vanished about 3 decades ago, or decades ago, yeah, 3 decades ago, I would say, maybe 4. We today are living in an environment that's prime for destroying marriages and relationships, because a lot of times we as men don't know how to be men, because a lot of times we were raised by women. A lot of my friends were raised by women, and even though they have a bunch of kids, they can have sex. They can't be men. They can't be husbands because they weren't raised to be that. We weren't raised to be men and husbands. A lot of times, a lot of my peers, and a lot of the girls who are my peers as well, my age group, were not raised to be women, to be mothers, to be wives. We were raised to have the mindset of modern women, independent women. And because they were raised that way, they started taking on the persona and the mindset and the energy of masculinity. And because a lot of the men were raised primarily by women, they were taking on the persona, the mindset of femininity, especially in when it comes to emotional stability. A lot of the men um, my age, not so much in my age, but the generation below us, the younger generations, the uh, the men are highly feminine when it comes to emotion. Um, they're kind of erratic with the emotions, but men in nature, it's like a power struggle because our nature dictates that we stay focused, we stay calm, we stay grounded. Um, so we create a sense of security for family and being providers and protectors, which is part of our inner nature. Um, and we do have the ability to nurture and do all those other things too, but that is more inherent to women. But because our natures, we are fighting our masculine nature to live the way we were brought up to live, which is with the mindset of a woman, and we can't do it. It creates a confusion within relationships. And the same goes for women. The chasing the bag, the masculine energy, all that stuff that modern society has instilled in women is creating confusion in relationships. And the confusion is more so with the women because they're accustomed to dictating things in a masculine way, but still have the body and the hormones and emotion of a woman. It creates problems. That's why you're seeing a lot of relationships falling apart and divorce rates 80% initiated by women. Things are never working out, and then we get to the point where we're blaming each other and so forth. Um, but in MGTOW, the man in MGTOW realized something was wrong. They're fed up. We're fed up with the shit. So we've gone our own way. But I would say the majority of us are not. We don't hate women. We don't mind being in relationships and things like that. And and it's not like we're seeking it and we're happy with ourselves. But if one does come along, I'm sure a lot of us would be interested or intrigued to try to see if it'll work. But when we go into those type of relationships, we go in with a better understanding and mindset of who we are, what our value is, and what we're expecting out of a relationship. But one of the things that even though we go into relationships like that, we still run into the mindset of the modern woman that cannot produce what we're looking for because they were not taught from a young age to be those things. They were taught to chase the bag. They were taught to go get an education. They were taught to, do anything, the same things a man could do. So they cannot bring femininity to the table. Because if you're going to be trained to do what a man can do, you got to give up femininity to achieve that. Because there's a certain stoicness, a certain discipline where emotions need to be bridled to become the CEO of a large corporation, to be a manager, to be a supervisor, to be a business owner. All that stuff requires a certain level of strangle holding feminine emotions and femininity to achieve it. And by doing so, when it comes to it, you still have the desire to be in a relationship and have family because it's part of a DNA of men and women. Then the confusion and the conflict starts coming because you're taught to do one thing and your body and your nature is wanting to do something else. It's a constant power struggle. And once that power struggle remains that way, both men and women lose out. And all children lose out the most. So in MGTOW, we start realizing what we want. We tend to realize that when we're older, after going through a lot of failed stuff. But I would say a lot of us still don't mind trying. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, we're not all extremes. Some people can go to the extremes, and that's fine. If you're happy with that, by all means do that. I will support you 100% because, frankly, that's the easiest way to go. Um, for self growth, development, peace of mind, and all that stuff. Being in a relationship comes with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of stress, and things like that. You have to be able to deal with those things. Um, but because we were all raised in a culture that's that kind of take away gender roles or and things like that, and it's a deconstruction of family um, environment. Um, we lost a lot of stuff that helped lead to that. Now, just recently, about 4 months ago, my cousin and a friend moved back to the United States. They were born in this country, but they grew up in the Caribbean. And my cousin's friend grew up with a modern woman mindset and upbringing. So she doesn't know how to cook. She doesn't know how to clean. Well, she'll know how to clean, but she's not. It wasn't instilled in her the duties of taking care of a house, the cleanliness of a house, cooking, sort of nourishing of family and herself. So so she leaned more towards being in the streets, racking up body counts, not really eating healthy. Doesn't really know how to cook. Doesn't really. She cleans, but it's a necessity, not necessarily a responsibility. Parties all the time and all that stuff. And even though she's responsible at working, she's in that bag to be that independent woman to live the hot girl summer that she's enjoying, not really realizing or caring that the fact that she's being used, despite the fact that she may see herself as using the guys for her own personal enjoyment. When it comes time to settle down and marry and all that stuff, that's when she'll understand what I've been telling her, that no man of any worth is gonna value her enough to marry her. We will use you, we will sleep with you, we will play with you, we'll enjoy your company because all you are is a good time girl. That's what I explained to her, and maybe she'll settle down and try, or realize that she's just being used and not the other way around. And I know she's starting to realize that news is traveling among the circle that she's with, and but she hasn't really slowed down yet. But in time, she's starting to realize some things. Whereas my cousin, on the other hand, grew up with the family structured with everybody, aunts, uncles, cousins, the young adults, their grandparents, great grandparents, all living in the same community, where she grew up seeing the older women taking care of the house, running the house, while the men go out and work and do whatever they do, and come home, and the women submit to the men in the sense that the men still are leaders of the family, but she's seeing that the women gets everything that they want or desire because they give so much of themselves to the men that a man has no choice but to like do whatever the woman wants. And she grew up with that, and she was able to, so when she came here, within the first week, my she was taking care of my house, and as though, because she was raised to be a wife. And I was talking to her because I was teasing her about, hey, you're a wife, you shouldn't even be considering looking to go work. you know you should be more looking for a relationship with a quality man that would because a quality man would value what she is. She's not out on the street partying. She's not out chasing, running up body counts. None of those things. What she's doing is, she is looking to go back to college. She is looking for work. She is working, But she's also when she's home, she's taking care of the home. So anything she wants for herself or the home, I just give it to her. Anything she tells me to do as concerning those things, for the most part, I give it to her. Because she's has made this place more comfortable to come home. She's engaged, she's feminine, she engages with the kids that I work with because I raise children professionally through the foster care system. And she's bringing a sense of femininity um, that I could never portray because I'm a man. And it's beneficial not just to myself, but to the kids that's in my care, and to the house in general, even the people, her friends that come. It's a real home feeling uh, that's here, and that has to do again with the cultural upbringing of the way we approach raising our children here. In this country, it's the family unit, but it's really the teachers at school that's raising our kids, the after school programs that's raising our kids. We're just there giving permission to all these other services to raise our kids, and there's no real family involvement. Even within my family here, my mother lives maybe what, a mile and 5 miles from here, and I will see her every Sunday when I go visit, but she rarely ever comes here and engage with the kids, you know. So even her, she grew up with a modern mindset when she was younger, but as she got older, she still has a lot of that modern woman mindset, but she was able to get married and still submit to her husband in her own way, where he's in charge of the household, and so she gets whatever she wants, even though she doesn't really cook, but she will help. She will do a lot of different things to make up for that. So hopefully this video made some sense. You could ask questions in the comment section down below, like and subscribe. I just thought it was interesting to see the various the old world upbringing in my cousin, who's only 19, and she it is true, I've said it before, and I think a few other YouTubers have said it, you can't, getting married doesn't make you a wife. You have to be trained to be a wife from a young age, and you already have to be a wife. Being married make you a married individual, but it doesn't make you a husband or a wife. We in MGTOW have realized that in order to be a good husband, you have to value yourself as men first, and to like say no to all the bullshit a lot of women have taught us that we're supposed to be and supposed to live like our lives like, what we're supposed to do for them, for their benefit, or for women's happiness. But we in MGTOW realize we have to live for our own selves, and we have to live for our own selves as men, and we will attract women, real women that want a real man, because MGTOWs have real men. There are a few boys scattered around MGTOW where, you know, they're disgruntled for being, they're just fed up, so they'll come, you know, say we're MGTOW and whine about it. But in reality, we're MGTOW and we don't whine about that shit. We are MGTOW, and we develop and grow ourselves. So, and even when if we do find a relationship, we're still MGTOW, because we're not going to return to the same enslavement of being men living with the mindset of a woman. Like, subscribe, you'll have a good day.